Hi, Taurus Sun and Rising. Welcome to your March 2023 Astro Update. It's Rena here. Well, this is the month I've been waiting for, and we always have to be careful about putting too much emphasis on outer occurrences because I know that in the past there have been other things that I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to happen, that's going to happen. And the thing is that the ultimate kind of, if you want to call it a guarantee that you will make a lot of progress in life, is if you are doing whatever it is that you're trying to do to achieve your goals, to make your dreams come true. Sometimes when I'm looking at comments on astrology videos, I'm not like really watching a lot of other astrology videos, but I still do from time to time. And I noticed that there are always some people that are kind of like, oh, thank God, I hope that this is going to be the time when my life starts getting better. And they really are kind of just sitting there, you know, looking for these transits that are going to save them and make their life what they want it to be. And that's where it gets very tricky with astrology because you don't want to be passive, And I mean, March is going to be a time when we're going to see a lot of change in terms of the astrology. Will that translate in March to actual change on our planet? Well, I mean, this is also an energetic period where we have the astrological new year, which happens to be the vernal equinox in the northern hemisphere or springtime. And this is when the sun goes into Aries. And it's supposed to be, at all of the changes of the seasons, a powerful period because the cardinal signs really herald change. And of course, the seasons um, also indicate change. I'm recording this in February, and it's not even mid-February yet, and I can feel that spring that's about I was going to say sprung. That's going to launch before I know it. But I mean, I'm already starting to feel it in February. So by March, it's well underway. So we've got a lot going on in this month as well. We have two outer planets that are changing signs, and one of them has Saturn hasn't been in Pisces for 30 years, and Pluto hasn't been in Aquarius since the American Revolution, the French Revolution. So that's like 200 and I don't know, what is it, 30, 50, I don't know, plus years, something like that. So that's pretty spectacular. On the second of the month, Mercury goes into Pisces. For Taurus people, this is the 11th house of hopes and wishes. And you recently had in February a new moon here, and now Mercury is going here, and it's going to make you feel like you want to think about the things that you want to manifest. And these can be long-term things, not necessarily even material things. It might be a place you want to live. Of course, you could say that's material on some level, but there's other things that you can have goals about that don't involve those kinds of areas of life. But also, this is the house of friendships, groups that you belong to. So you may be calling up your friends. Perhaps you've kind of lost touch with them and you're getting more social right now, going to meetings, to groups that you might belong to, or maybe you're even joining up with some kind of a meeting because somebody has invited you. This is a house where you can plan your future. And with Mercury here, you could write it down. And even in February, if you haven't, if you're watching before February 20th or 19th, then that's something you can do at that new moon, is to come up with, one astrologer says 40 wishes when you have a new moon in your 11th house. On the 7th, we have a very important thing going on. First of all, Saturn is going into Pisces. And for Taurus people, once again, that is the 11th house. Oh, and another thing too is we have to talk what else is in the 11th house. We have Neptune there for years in your 11th house. Now, that could have been kind of challenging. I think Neptune went into the 11th in 2012, I believe. And that might have, and now that I think about it, it was around 2012, maybe 2013, when because I have Taurus rising, so I have this in my 11th house. But I remember that was, I saw some kind of a flyer and I started going to this Kundalini yoga and then subsequent workshops in the past 10 years. And it was about 2013. So Neptune must have been in my 11th house. Neptune can be spiritual, so spiritual groups. But yeah, so on the 7th, you have Saturn going here. Saturn is a planet that wants to ground your dreams into reality. So Neptune can be very dreamy, very idealistic, but not necessarily realistic or organized. Definitely not organized. Saturn can be a good co-planet, if you will, in this area where they will be working long term to be able to provide structure. That's what Saturn is good at when it comes to your dreams. On the same day, you have a full moon at 16 degrees of Virgo. And this is going to fall in your 5th house of love and creativity. For those people who are single, you may find that there is love around you that you were not even knowing that it was there. Maybe it was somebody who was a platonic friend and you were just kind of hanging out with this person, and then you realized, why do I separate this from love, from romantic love? Sometimes the reason that people do that is because they have such a deeply ingrained idea of what they are attracted to, when really it could be kind of a negative attraction that is not really doing them much good. So being able to see love blossom, I think a full moon sometimes is the blossoming effect. If you have been having a difficult time getting over some type of love relationship, this could be something that has long since broken up. This may be a time when it comes to your attention for some reason and you're able to release it. It's a very creative time. I mean, full moons are always creative in the 5th house, but especially, I was going to say, full moons in the 5th house can be very creative. I was going to say the full moon itself can be very fertile for your imagination, but in the 5th house, even more so. And so be careful about unwanted pregnancy. This is the house of conceiving children. Be mindful of, the kind of behaviors you're engaging in, because it could be quite fertile in the physical sense as well. On the 16th, Venus goes into Taurus, and that's good for all of us because Venus is in its own element, its own sign, and for Taurus people, that's the first house. So that makes you attractive, and of course, that's your ruler. So Venus is your ruler, and it's in your sign because Venus does rule Libra as well, as probably some of you know. So it's in your sign this time. So this can make you actually more attractive in some way. It might even be in a way that feels kind of mysterious. Have you ever, I know I have experienced this where I have walked down the street and, I'm not a spring chicken, so it's not like when I was younger getting attention as a younger woman, but just like walking down the street and people smile or, engage. And it's not always like that. And you're like, oh, I wonder what's going on. And you're not like gussied up or anything. I think that there are times when our aura, for whatever reason, invites other people. And this could be one of those things. You could be even, maybe you decide to kind of get your hair cut or done or something something to make yourself look more attractive. Gemini also comes out of its shadow. I mean, I gotta change this. I keep saying Gemini. Mars comes out of its shadow in the sign of Gemini. So I think that this is another good thing for Taurus in terms of finances, because we have had Mars in the second house. And Mars is very active, so it can mean that that anybody who has this kind of transit is really like having a sense of urgency about making money. That's one possibility, but there can also be some kind of conflict with money. So it's possible that, and also remember there was a long retrograde period too. So that could somehow have not been harmonious with you attracting money the way that you normally do. And I would say that's probably more of the likelihood, because normally when Mars is just going through the second house, it can mean that the person is just very motivated to make money. But because if you factor in the retrograde period, even when Mars goes direct, it still has that shadow period. And that actually has lasted for over 2 months. So by the time of this going out of its shadow period, you may have still experienced that kind of slowdown effect. And maybe you have felt that there was this invisible inability to make money, at least to the same level as you normally expect. And it's funny because when I was thinking about that, because sometimes we're just focused on other types of transits. When a planet goes direct like that, we forget that it still could be operating with that slowed down effect since it hasn't come back up to speed yet. So you might see, here you have Venus in your own sign, plus Mars coming out of its shadow, and perhaps that's going to make your finances flow more from this time onwards. On the 19th, Mercury goes into Aries. Aries is your 12th house. And that can make you more psychic, but it can also make you more illogical. And yet, sometimes being logical has a limited use or function in life. at least as an influence. Sometimes you need to have that spiritual insight. And, sometimes this can produce these vague feelings of anxiety or other types of I don't know. Sometimes these things don't necessarily happen in my 12th house, but I've been having some really strange occurrences. Maybe some of you have. Like, I like to walk, but I like to walk in the city. I live near Chicago, so I call it urban hiking, and I'll just go into a hood and I'll just start walking. Sometimes I cover multiple neighborhoods by walking, and it seems like lately it's like I'm looking around and it's like I feel like I have already experienced this. Maybe it was in the astral realms. Maybe it was, like in the dream state or something. I don't remember my dreams typically, but you never know. It feels like deja vu when I'm walking in these new areas and I'm like, I feel like I was already here. And so these kinds of and I've had other things that were like kind of cellular memories that come up when I'm looking at something, not necessarily that it's that exact thing that I remember from the past, but it's like a trigger. So it's hard to even articulate these things, but I think some of you may understand that. And these are the kind of things that can happen to you, especially when Mercury's in the 12th house. Um, so let me see here. And the very next day, the sun goes into the 12th. And this starts the hibernation process. But remember, everyone has a different chart. Like, for instance, my rising sign is 26 degrees of Taurus. The cusp of my 12th house is like 8 degrees of Aries. So this is why these types of readings are only general readings. So the date when the sun actually enters your 12th may be off by a little bit. But the point is that the hibernation period is the approximate month, or if you have a big 12th house, it'll be longer than that, where it's like a gestation before your new cycle begins, because every time the sun and these planets cross over into the first house, they're creating their own cycles. And the more that we can be mindful of this and that we see it as new beginnings with each of these planets crossing over, the more that we can take advantage of what they each represent in terms of, like, for instance, when, yeah, that's right, because, Jupiter is in your 12th house. And when Jupiter goes into Taurus, into your sign, it'll be in your first house. So you can look at that as a new Jupiter cycle, and that has its own set of characteristics compared to another planet. But yeah, so you may feel when the sun goes into your 12th house that you are you need more rest, you're a little bit less energetic, a little bit less social. Maybe you want to stay home and chill more. You want to be alone more. Perhaps you're getting into meditation and quiet activities. That's like really 12th house, or anything that are quiet activities and a lot of solitude. And this is the astrological new year, so that's a whole new cycle for the collective. On the 21st, we have a new moon at 0 degrees 50 minutes of Aries, also in the 12th, but very close to 21 degree, I'm sorry, 1 degree of Aries. But right after the astrological new year, to have a new moon here is really something, because it really underscores those new beginnings. So the fact that it's going to be in your 12th house can be a time where you ask yourself, okay, maybe it's not for right now that I want to manifest these things. Maybe it's in a few months. What is it that I would like to manifest maybe for all of 2023? If this is the womb of creation, I want to put in my order before the sun is in the first house. This can be some kind of new beginning as far as spiritual matters. Maybe you're feeling that sense of wanting to start a new meditation course or a new spiritual book you want to kind of dig into. Just something that signals that you are changing in this area in some way. On the 23rd, this is another huge deal. Pluto going into Aquarius. It's very rebellious energy, but it's really Aquarius is the collective. So this is not surprising that the last time it was transiting through Aquarius, there were these revolutions, American Revolution, the French Revolution. And revolutions, when you talk about when it's a populist kind of a thing, because I'm sure, revolutions from the top down aren't very pleasant, but from the bottom up, it's glorious. Because it's like power to the people, right? And for Taurus people, this is this is going to be in your 10th house of career. Now, again, every chart is different. For instance, my 10th house cusp is like 3 degrees of Aquarius. So I'm not going to see Pluto in my 10th house in 2023. I don't know how far it's going to go up to in 2024 because I don't really look that far ahead of the end of 2024. I will at some point as I do more personal readings for transits, into 2024, but I haven't done so, and I have a feeling it might not even get into my 10th house in 2024. It's a possibility, but it moves very slowly, and this particular cycle in Aquarius is going to move especially slowly because it's going to be 20 years that it's in Aquarius, not 15, like it was in Capricorn. So we can really see that this is the next 20 years until 2043. When we're done with this transit, we may look back and go, whoa, that was really something. Boy, did we change. And did society change? Because that's what we would see as Aquarius, as a society as a whole. So, we can look at this as a change agent, but it's only going to stay at 0 degrees, and then it's going to retrograde back into Capricorn, which is your 9th house. So it will flirt with Aquarius and then go back. I do have a video, if I think to link it, I'll put it below, that deals with Taurus and how Saturn going into Pisces and Pluto going into Aquarius affects you in a very more detailed way than here. On the 25th, Mars goes into Cancer. Finally, Mars leaves Gemini after over 7 months. So that is, again, for all of us, we're going to see that there is this change. Even though Mars is by no means anything compared to either Saturn or Pluto in terms of its transit time, it still is unusually long lingering in Gemini. And the very fact that it's moving on in March when these other planets are doing so as well is indicative of the theme of change. So for Taurus people, this is falling in your third house of communication and teaching, learning something. There's going to be some activation with that in some way. Who knows? Maybe you'll be doing both. Maybe you'll be a tutor, but you're also learning some other kind of skill at the same time. This can be siblings. Perhaps you're dealing with them more at this time, or you are sparring with them, you're disagreeing with them, you don't see eye to eye about something. Can be also true with neighbors. But just you could be more civic minded and doing things about town. Maybe you're just doing a lot of errands. You're running a lot of errands in the area, doing a lot of local stuff that for some reason you were waylaid about. So that's what I have for you, Taurus. I hope that this resonated. And if you would like a personal reading, the link is below. Take care. Bye.